Hello you sexy Spartan, and welcome to the one place that always puts out on the first day, and that is the Halo Foundry. I keep being an absolute pain in the arse and continue putting off my reviews for these bloody Halo Reach figures from 1000 Toys. I've been receiving all of them as a release, but I've been really wanting to just sit down for an entire day and just take them all in, but games and crappy life just keep getting in the way of that. And before I knew it, 4 of the bloody 6 figures have arrived, so now I'm just a bit behind schedule. So finally, with all that said, here's my review of the 1000 Toys 1/12 scale re-edit Nobel 6, Carter, June and Emile. I was going to be doing individual reviews of them, but I think we're past that point now, as they all share similarities when it comes to their articulation and the quality and that filthy high cost of theirs. So I'm just going to be repeating myself, but I will be doing smaller separate reviews for Kat and George when they arrive later this year. I'm going to mainly be using Emile for the talking points for comparable bits as he's the newest figure out of the team, but I will be giving each their own time to shine when they stand out. Anyway, let's jump in. Halo first introduced us to Nobel team back in 2010 when Halo Reach launched into our lives and took us out of the darkness, and the gang have remained fan favourites ever since. And because of that, they've remained fantastic opportunities to continuously bleed fans dry. So it really comes as no surprise that we're overdue another round of figures, and that's where 1000 Toys generously stepped in. 1000 Toys are the creators of high quality and highly articulated figures, and they announced this line back in 2023, with Nobel 6 being the first to release in November of 2024, then Carter next in December, then June this February, and then Emile has just landed this month of March. And then we've still got Kat arriving with us in September, and George will be finishing the line in October. Some places have been releasing these a little bit early, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them a lot sooner than that. They all cost around $200 each, which is definitely a high price to swallow. And they're available from tons of different retailers. I've got all of mine from Sideshow, but they're also available from places like the Big Bad Toy Store. Each figure comes in 2 spicy editions, with the standard edition coming with 5 pairs of interchangeable hands and a weapon. I've got the exclusive editions for all 4 of them here, and this version has the same hands, but it swaps out the metallic visor for a chrome plated one, and it also gives you another exclusive weapon. But they're all mostly disappointing anyway. I haven't really seen the difference in price between both the standard and the exclusive. I just find that if I'm buying it local in the UK, it's typically going to be the standard edition, but if I look overseas in the US, it's going to be the exclusive one. It's likely more complex than that and depends entirely on the retailer, but from what I've seen, this is mostly the case. Each figure comes in some pretty damn sexy looking packaging. Each is nicely themed to the character, and Emile is my favourite as he's got this nice fiery red, but all of them look really good. It would have been nice if the exclusive edition had that chrome plated one on the box, but all we got is this lousy sticker. Then June's box is a little girthier compared to the others, which I think is due to his backpack and his ghillie around his neck, and I fully expect George's box to at least be this thick as well, as he is a bit of a lad. I would have preferred if all of them shared the same thickness, as displaying the boxes against a wall just means that June's going to be sticking out of place a little. But the look of the boxes really fit with the previous Chiefs, and that's nice that was carried over. But when you do open them up, you're immediately faced with a downgrade, despite being more expensive, which is an absolute shame. They no longer have the windowed inner box and go straight to the plastic casing. The window was such a good alternative to display them boxed up, so it's just a little crap that we don't have that option anymore with these. Each figure also comes with this nice little booklet to help with the attachments and swapping out the hands, which is always appreciated. And I'm going to put the accessories aside for now, and we're going to look at the main thing itself, which is the figures. And there we have it, 2/3 of Nobel team complete. And I have to say, having all 4 of these beasts next to each other in front of me, it's utterly fantastic. I know there's been some mixed feelings around these, especially when it comes to the price and the detail of the figures, but for me, I really just think they look great, and can't wait to see the whole complete set, so bring on Kat and George. I've seen a few people say that McFarlane figures have better quality than these, and I've got nothing but love for the McFarlane line, but that honestly just isn't true in the slightest. They can't compete with the quality of these 1000 Toys ones. And why should they? You could have at least brought 15 McFarlane figures for the price of one of these. Both are just achieving 2 entirely different goals. But that's where these sting, because with shipping and customs included, I've got well over £800 worth of figures right here. That's a damn lot. These are aimed at being more premium products, real display pieces for your collection. And they're all just shy of 7 inches tall. George will be taller than that, and they're made out of an ABS plastic and each fitted with a die cast inner frame. They definitely do feel really solid, and the joints are just real sturdy. And it does take a little bit of force to get them moving for the first time, but then they're pretty smooth sailing from there. The ABS plastic is also fantastic at showing all that finer detail for the models. Bungie really stepped up the character models for Reach, and they packed in so many details into each team member, and all of that is nicely carried over here. I was definitely surprised when 1000 Toys announced that they're going to be doing the whole of Nobel team, as before that we've had the Sea, Chief and then the Infinite one as well. So we've gone from 2 figures in 4 years to now 8 figures in total. That's a massive jump up. But the one benefit to the Reach designs and Nobel team is that at the heart they're the same Mark V Mjolnir, just with added accessories and different colours depending on the character. I imagine it's pretty appealing to have to just make one base and then just swapping out parts to create an entirely new character. It's really obvious in some points, just looking at Carter's arm here and the seams that run around the top. It was designed just to be slotted in and to be replaced with Emile's wrist attachment, and the same as with the left arm as well. And that's not really a bad thing, it's really just efficiency. And then we've got some hidden peg holes on the hips, which I'll show off a little later, but these are used to pop in the fire attachments for June and Emile, so you can actually remove these and swap them out, but you just don't have the cap to plug it back in to hide it. But then the paint job as well is also another thing that is also quite decisive. I've seen a lot of people complain about the paint and just how clean they look and all of that. But I just really don't mind it. And I don't mean to keep going against the complaints, but I've mentioned this many times before in different reviews. Things don't need grime and dirt washes to look good. Having them clean just makes them really crisp. Honestly, having washes and grime probably would have ruined them for me. And I get it, Reach is the grimiest of all the Halo games, so it's a bold move to go against that. But you know, this armour would have looked polished at one point, and every other figure is always dirty and grimy. So this is them straight out of the factory. And even though you shouldn't have to improve things, it makes a good project for those who want to add that level of wear and tear. But then there's one thing that completely goes against what I've just said and makes me look like a right idiot. The one thing, and it does confuse me, is that they decided to give chipped paint to all of the accents, which makes it feel a little out of place seeing battle damage and scrapes on some parts and then have it completely clean everywhere else. This is all over the figures and it does seem a little inconsistent. What is good though is the amount of small decals that they've got all over them, with the mind your step thingies on the feet and the UNSC symbol and small little warnings throughout the armour is just fantastic to see. And then Nobel 6 has got all of his blue energy shield emitters painted in, and then nicely all over his chest, back and legs, which is great. Then Carter has got them on his legs, but not on his chest and back, and then June and Emile don't have any at all. And this is completely inexcusable for me. The lights are key features to the armour, and having them half-arse it by only having them entirely on one figure just feels cheap. Again, jumping back to that price, and considering that you've already proved that you can do it with 6, and they share the exact same moulds, I think we can expect a little dab of paint here for the price, don't you think? And then lastly for the detail, we've got those visors, and as these are the exclusive edition, I've got those chrome plated ones. I can't say anything for the standard metallic visor, but these here look pretty good. There's a nice array of colours that show off when the light hits it just right. However, I would instantly swap out this chrome visor for a better weapon or accessory. But we've got what we've got, and what we've got is pretty good. But if I were to guess where all of that cost goes into these things, it's got to be with that articulation, as it's rather bloody impressive. In-game developers can cheat the poses and clip armour through each other. There's really no limitations to how limbs can unnaturally stretch. But 1000 Toys have overcome this restriction by allowing certain plates to shift out the way or under each other to extend some of the joint's reach. This is really nothing new for these figures or exclusive at all, but it's just nice to see the added detail. You can get them into all sorts of weird poses, and I haven't really felt restricted at all. Starting at the bottom up, the feet are hinged as well as the top plate, which allows them to pivot out the way. Then their ankles have double ball joints. And then the knees are double hinged as well and can go back really far. A lot of the knee is actually hidden within the armour and it's exposed when you bend it to keep it nice and clean. I'm not really familiar with the terminology of all the joints and hinges, but there's definitely a few twists and gizmos going on at the leg. They can turn and stretch out, not by an insane amount, but for me enough to get them into any realistic pose that I want. The sides of the belt also shift up as well, which really allows you to maximise the kick of the legs. Then there's a ball joint at the waist, and then a hinge at the stomach. And just like the knees, the back also splits apart and maintains a nice level of hidden detail. And then there's some more movement around the top, which I believe is another ball joint. There's butterflies at the shoulders, with Emile and Carter their large shoulder pads also hinge out of the way, which is nice. Then they have double elbows just like the knees, which do twist as well, and then they've got a ball at the wrist. And then to finish things off, there's a hinge at the base of the neck, and then a ball at the top. The backs of the helmets do shift up to maximise that movement. There's a surprisingly good amount of movement within the necks, and June is not restricted at all by that giddy. I honestly don't think you can ask for anything better when it comes to their articulation. They're just fantastic. With the CE Chief you got 5 pairs of hands, a tasty 4 weapons, and then the Infinite Chief had 5 pairs of hands as well, a respectable 3 weapons for the standard edition and another tasty 4 weapons for the exclusive. And then here we are blessed with 5 pairs of hands again, with only 1 weapon for the standard edition and a measly generous 2 for the exclusive. So there's obviously a massive step back, despite these being higher priced than the ones before. Continuing with the same base Mark V figure approach, all 6 figures have the exact same hands despite the accessories. They're just repainted. Well, Kat's might be just a little bit different. And these hands are fists, weapon hold in hand A, weapon hold in hand B, which is the trigger finger, open hand A, and then weapon hold in hand C, which is for the energy sword. Though Emile and Carter are the only ones that actually have the energy sword when it comes to their exclusive edition, so if you've only got the standard edition or don't have the exclusive Emile or Carter, then you've got some weird gang sign hands I guess. But the hands are really easy to swap in and out, as they've just got a ball that you pop them on. If you ever got the CE Chief or saw my review, these are miles better than those pieces of crap. I remember them pinging off every bloody minute when I was doing my review. I just hate nearly everything about this damn figure. But then we've got those juicy little weapons. The standard edition gives each member their iconic weapon, with 6 having the assault rifle, Carter having the DMR, June with a sniper rifle and Emile with his shotgun. And then the exclusive edition also gives you an additional weapon, with 6 adding the glorious spanker, Carter having an energy sword, June having a magnum, which also George is going to have a magnum as well for his exclusive, and Emile likely having the same energy sword that pierced his back, and that's the same as Carter. I think the choices of the weapons are just really not the best for me. So 6 is absolutely fine, the assault rifle and spanker is fantastic for the exclusive, no complaints there at all. But Kat, when she releases, she's going to have the assault rifle, so duplicates straight away annoy me. She really should have the magnum just to match her promos. But then George and June also having the magnum as well is just a bit odd. But then having a grenade launcher for Kat's exclusive, once again it's fantastic and completely unique mould that no other members have. But then Carter and Emile both having the energy sword, it's just completely lazy. All figures really should have completely unique weapons for both their standard and then something really special for the exclusive. I'm expecting things like the needle rifle, needler and plasma caster. There's just so many awesome weapons in reach and we got none of them, or nearly none of them. We got Kat without a magnum and 2 sets of duplicates. But when judging what we have, just like the armour, the detail across all of them just looks really great. The issues emerge when you look at the paint job. Every single one of them is missing the red buttons that are completely peppered throughout. Not a single one of them has any red at all. And again, for the price, it surprises me to see, or not to see. And then the Magnum and the shotgun don't have any blue lights on them at all, just like the Mjolnir. Like, did they run out of light blue paint or something? And then the assault rifle doesn't even have the numbers on it. That's always a massive issue for me when that's skimped out on. I know that this thing is small, but I've seen it done before. I want my goddamn bloody numbers. Each weapon can also be attached to the figures as well, with some pegs that you can swing out. Each figure has a cap that can be removed from their backs and both hips to reveal peg holes for the weapons to slot in. I say it all, but June doesn't have one for his back, and I think that's because of the giddy and the backpack covering it up. I did think that this was one as well, as it does look like a cap, but I got a little scared when it wasn't coming off with some force, so it might not be. Though the Magnum doesn't have a peg on it itself, I guess because it's a lot smaller than the other weapons, but they do include these dumb little hooks to pop in, then you just clip the Magnum in and then done. But I'm a little conflicted here though, as I hate these hooks, they're just something else to lose, but then the pegs are just really ugly on the weapons. I appreciate that they allow easy attaching of said weapons, but they just look real nasty. Hopefully in the future they could do something with magnets though. They don't really weigh that much, so I'm sure it's possible, I think. And then with the energy swords, they don't have any pegs, but you know, who's keeping an active blade by the hip anyway? Maybe they could have included some unactive handles with a peg as well, but you know, I feel like I'm asking more than they're willing to give. And then lastly for the accessories, their knives don't come out of the sheaths. So this really is a non-accessory. I only bring it up because cheaper figures of knives like the $20 Spartan Collection ones were all removable, but none of them really fit properly with the Spartan Collection, they're just a little crap anyway. So this really goes either way. Thanks for not giving us crap knives to lose, but also with the increase of quality here, the knives could have been more snug and secure. But who knows, maybe it could have been cool. And then lastly again for missing accessories. I've said this before with the previous figures, and that's that none of them come with stands. And I'm really just asking for something real basic here. It doesn't have to have a cool plate on it with the character's name and say Halo Reach, even though that would have been dope. These figures are so posable, and the fact that out of the box they have to rely on their own weight to hold themselves, it's just bizarre. Even if they had to bump up the price just a little more, even though it's already disgusting, to include the stand, I still would have taken them. I just feel like figures of this quality should have something to hold them up. And now we get to the conclusion of the review, and what are my final thoughts and why you should care what a random twat on the internet has to say. Well, with my world-renowned Halo Foundry ranking system, I'm going to be giving each of these figures a respectable 7 out of 10, and that's a really good score, maybe much more than these deserve. Obviously there's some massive flaws of them, they really do have a high price, and that doesn't really cover the quality in some areas. The weapons do look great from afar, but then they definitely lack in some of the finer details in the paint up close. And then the figures have some basic paint that's missing, but depending on your view as well, you may want some extra grime and washes. But then there are massive pros when it comes to the articulation, which is also fantastic. The detail and sculpting across everything is just stellar, and what we have for the paint job is just brilliant for me. Despite all of those negatives, just having all 4 figures in front of me just sends shivers down my spine, and it just makes me remember Reach. Honestly, I consider these things to be brilliant and highly recommend you at least pick one of them up. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. But what about you? Do you have any of these figures, or did you give them a miss? Let me know what you'd score them down in the comments. Catch you next time, you thick and juicy Spartan. Peace out.